Welcome to the Kingston Creative Meetup. Tonight we're talking about the creative city, and this is a continuation of a conversation we started already in May. So tonight we're having another Townhall session. The event tagline is, come make a reason. Let's talk about it. Let's see what the community thinks or believes a creative city is, how it impacts them. And we'll also have a conversation as to how this aligns with Kingston Creative's goals and what we're working towards. Tonight, as usual, we have a set of speakers who they will share from their own perspectives what it is a creative city is, how it impacts the different persons in these communities. We have Kedis Colliard, we have Robert Ralph, Natalie Johnson, Owen Blacker Ellis, Romaine Sabuki Allen, and we may also have Patrice Kamika, who will share with us from their different perspectives. I'm going to invite them to introduce themselves to us a little bit before we get into those conversations, and then we can start to talk about it. So I'd love to welcome them to the stage just so we can learn some more about them and the kind of work that they have been doing in each of these communities. While we wait on them to join us here, I just want to remind you that if you're on our platforms, you can also send your questions there, so you can be a part of this open conversation that we're having right now. And of course, we want to also remind our muralists that there are 2 open calls for murals in Trenchtown and Hannahtown. So feel free to apply, sending those applications before September 15th. And also you can check out for more information on Kingston Creative channels at Kingston Creative JM, that's on Instagram, and KGN Creative, that's on Twitter as well. We also have a business and IP registration program that's still open. That's 25,000 to creatives that want to register their businesses, or intellectual property. So those are different opportunities that are available to you. So please take advantage of them as well. I see we have 2 panelists here with me. Welcome, Natalie and Robert, to our meetup. I just want you to briefly just introduce yourselves to the audience here, tell them, what it is that the work that you're doing in the communities, so we can just get to know you a little bit better.
So, who'll go first, Sarah? It looks like
I let the lady go. Since you're all the blogs, Natalie.
Okay, so I am Natalie Johnson. I'm a financial advisor. I am a resident of Kingston, Tivoli Gardens to be exact. I also am a current volunteer with Kingston Creative, but formerly pod lead for Community Pod. I am a director on the SDC board and also on Stats board. So I'm very involved in my community locally and I guess for the nation too.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you as well, Robert, for joining us. You could tell us briefly, introduce yourself to our friends here online.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Ralph, and I am a Community Development Officer with the Social Development Commission. As you may know, the Social Development Commission is the main arm of the government that deals with community development. And how we seek to do this is by empowering the community, getting them organized so that they can identify the various issues within the communities and make plans as to how they can address those issues. And what we have found is that in most communities, unemployment is one of the major issues. So one of our main thrusts is to get the persons to get involved in entrepreneurship. So we have a program known as the Local Economic Development Support Program, where we try and support whatever efforts they are making entrepreneurially by assisting them to update themselves in like accounting, marketing, and those kind of aspects of it. And basically that is what we try to do with the communities.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Robert. I see Romaine has joined us as well. Do you prefer if we have this conversation as Sabuki or Romaine? Let's talk. you can introduce yourselves to the friends as to how you want us to engage tonight.
Hold on, give me a sec. Trying to get this video back working. Good day, everyone. Good evening. Can call me Sabuki. Those who know me by Sabuki, or who don't know me can address me as Romain Allen. Mr. Ralph, big up yourself. Natalie, Andrea, everybody who is here. You know, congratulations again for being here, everybody being here for the breath of life, and also for a very communal, organizative, you know, relation. So what we do at Lifeyard is a community-based organization and social enterprise, and which focuses and encompasses on social development, community building, character building, nation building, as well as life skills and entrepreneurial skills. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Sabuki. And I believe we also have Kedis Collard online with us, and Owen Blacker Ellis online with us as well. So we'd love to invite them to introduce themselves to the audience, just the same.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kedis Collard. I am a Community Development Officer with the Social Development Commission. I work in West Kingston communities, namely Hannahtown, Fletcher's Land, Central Downtown, Tivoli Gardens, and Dinhamtown. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing with us as well. Do we have Owen with us just yet? If not, while they join us tonight, we want to talk about, our creative city and what that really means for each of us. And we're gonna go straight into the conversation. What does it really mean? What does a creative city really mean to members of the community? And from your perspective, from where you sit, and also just from the perspective of, the conversation that you've been having with people. Do they actually recognize a creative city? Do they understand what it really is? I'm gonna throw that one to you, Natalie. You can let me know, from your perspective, one, or even from just, those you've been working with, what is the understanding of what a creative city is, or do they understand it?
Okay, so for residents, the wider residents for Kingston wouldn't necessarily readily be able to explain what exactly a creative city is. They are very excited to know that they're a part of the creative city, and they want to definitely be involved and just be a part of the whole progress. But understanding exactly what a creative city is, and not only understanding what it is, how are they involved in the creative city? How does it affect them? What opportunities are there for them as being a part of the creative city that may not be readily available? But the thing is, they're willing and ready to get involved and see how best they want to know the answer to those questions, basically.
All right. From your perspective, Robert, and for those who you've also been working with from even, that entrepreneurial side, what is the thought from the ground or from the community as it relates to a creative city? What is their understanding of it?
Well, like Natalie, I would say that maybe most of them, if you engage them, they wouldn't really have a perspective on it. But as she said, I know that a lot of them, they have talents that they really wish they could expose. And in that sense, I think that they would be willing and anxious in developing Kingston as a creative city. I think I would say that the potential is there waiting to be developed.
And as also someone working with persons in your community, Sabuki, even from your perspective, what would be your thought process on that? What the creative city really is. Could you also share with us from your view?
Give me a sec. Well, for a creative city and what encompasses the creative city, information to the community should be the most vital thing. Information, whether or not they know of their current talents and abilities, and for an individual to really navigate them into that specific area or areas of their own development. So going forward with actually navigating a community and their skill sets in terms of entrepreneurial skills or creative skills, or even, how should I put this, home-based skills, life skills training. So it's for us as individuals who have that know-how to actually navigate or press on with some of our individuals within these communities or these areas, because it's a bit hard to pull them out from their comfort zones, you know what I mean? Because people have different mindsets, you know what I mean? So it's to really break down the barrier with information subtly. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks for sharing it with us. I see Owen Black Ellis has joined us. Welcome to the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm very sorry I somehow got stuck on the road and just got home, so I missed much of what has been said so far.
We understand. We actually are talking about what the creative city really means to the community. Before I get your perspective on it, I would love for you to remind some of us who for some reason may forget who you are and some of the work that you've been doing. Just a quick introduction, and then we can get your perspective on that.
Okay, I'm an educator and performing artist, and I was born and raised in Trenchtown, and I've been in some way, in very different ways, connected to the community from over the years. So, and I've lived through the 70s and the 80s in Trenchtown. Well, I haven't lived there, but lived through what has happened there vicariously to my relatives who still live there. So I belong to Trenchtown, and I feel I'm very an integral part of the community and the environs that are connected to it. So, you know, I'm very interested in what's happening in the city, in Kingston, and I'm very aware of the fact that people's lives continue to unfold and exist within the city. So that when we look at creative city and people, we have to balance the idea of moving from garrison to gallery. And what does that mean for people who live there? You know?
Beautiful. And if we're even to, you know, invite what the definition of a creative city is, actually, before we get to that, do we have Kedis on our online just now? If we could have her unmuted and share her thoughts as well. But while tech support helps us with that, if we're to talk about the UNESCO Creative Cities Network, we know that was created in 2004. And basically what it does is promote cooperation among cities that are identified as creative from a strategic perspective. Right. So we also saw in the comments from Carol that a lot of us, from even the conversations we're hearing and the thoughts, we generally understand what the creative city is about and what it should accomplish. But when it comes to, as she even proposed, what we need to do to be a part of it is what we need to start talking about. What's that vision that each of us has in our communities that will allow us to be a part of this creative city holistically? I see where Kedis is trying to join us. Once she's unmuted, I'll invite her to join the conversation. So I believe the next question then comes down to what are the different needs or challenges or priorities of the communities when it comes to these creative cities. And I'll throw that one out. Sabuki, if you want to share, you can jump in on that, but I'll allow anyone to jump in on that question, because we know the creative city is this, but then what are the specific needs of the community? What do they actually need to be able to contribute effectively to this creative city that we're building?
I mean, I'm going to take that one there. Bless again. Greetings, Owen. Sir Ellis. Bless up again, everybody. For the main part, as I said before, you know, is really navigating the information to the community members, whether or not if they are that skilled in a specific area of entrepreneurial or, you know, community-based life skills or art itself, you know what I mean? So which each community in Kingston or every so-called quote-unquote garrison community, labeled as, you know, certain creative incubators, you know what I mean? So most of the creative people from these communities aren't really propelled with certain information, whether or not they have been through secondary or tertiary level of education. Some are actually ill-motivated to actually, you know, to step out and showcase these skills, you know what I mean? And it's like a burnt situation for most of these community members, because I've been in almost every community in, you know, every garrison community in Jamaica, basically. And I do my own research and gather, you know, evidence of what it takes to really achieve such creative empowerment in each of these communities, you know what I mean? Yeah, so as I said, first step is really informing and giving them that information, that direct information, or actually presenting it to them. Yeah.
So let's get to some solutions in this conversation as well. I know when you just started to talk, or when you mentioned to how to get it from the garrison to the gallery. And this sounds a lot like the conversation that Sabuki is also presenting, to say, listen, we need to give them information as to how to be able to contribute to these creative cities. How do we do that? How do we share that information? How do we get them from where they are? They're innately creative. How do we get them to now contribute to this creative city?
I'm glad that Andrea helpfully put in the chat a reminder of what all this is contextualized, and I know that the idea of placing creativity and cultural industries at the heart of developmental plans for communities, and that's where I want to jump in, because I think the challenge for stakeholders like Kingston Creative and the network within which you work, the challenge is to really get a buy-in from residents in a way that will ensure that the projects that are happening as you develop the city and with the arts as central to it, that the buy-in happens in a way that does not appear to cynics and onlookers as tokenism, but really involving transformation. Transformation in the way how people feel about their city. Because I mean, if you put on pretty clothes for a man who's sick and who's not based, who's not thinking right, it's not really helping. So it is to get people to really have a buy-in into understanding what they can bring to the table in terms of how they maintain and sustain the beautiful work that are happening in their community. And I mean, people basic needs like garbage disposal and waste management becomes an important part of it. Those physical, practical things, but also how people feel about their community, how people feel about their life, how people feel about their own ability to move, to grow, to become their best self. And if those things aren't being answered to, then you're gonna find that the efforts to uplift become really, really challenging. So I mean, and there are templates like the work that was done with Era Youth Foundation, where young people were brought into a program that really contributed to their transforming their lives as human beings, so they get a great sense of value for who they are and what they can be and can do. Then the work becomes easier. But until then, it becomes challenging. You're gonna have the cynics looking on, which sometimes I end up being one of them, and I say, yo, this is a tokenism with the transformation. So that is the real challenge, is to get that buy-in, to get people involved in it. I did some research work in Trenchtown. When I asked people to tell Trenchtown's history, right? Trenchtown is the place that give birth to all these wonderful people. Trenchtown is the birthplace of really and truly Rastafari and reggae, Martin McPlana, Church of Israel, Bob Marley. And I'm saying, so how come Trenchtown is still so crime infested and so poor? And people, all the people who I talk to, find them fingers at the politicians. And I'm like, yeah, but what you do about it? So that's where I want to jump in, where I really want to help to focus on. How can we get people involved in transforming how them feel, how them live, how them be, so that the ethos that they inhabit will then transform into how they treat the environment and how they invite the creativity to become a part of that.
Beautiful lead way to the conversation, because I really want to now also hear from Natalie and Robert, from the work that you do on the ground, speaking to and working with these persons. What is their feeling? How do we get them to that level that Owen just even raised, of appreciating their own value in the whole process? And currently, what are the thought processes that they're having that we need to also address?
Owen said some things that I was like, is he listening into my conversation with residents? Because this is the same thing that's happening in Tivoli, Denham Town, any community in Kingston. So it's absolutely not strange. Yes, and immediately, I remember a couple of years ago, I was having a conversation, that same passion Owen was talking a while ago, and I was having a conversation with somebody's like, no, with community people, they need somebody to tell them exactly what to do. So I noticed in Carol's comment initially, she was saying it is whatever they want it to be, but sometimes you need to help them to identify how is it that they were creative, because we've been hearing the term creative city more and more due to Kingston Creative being more involved in the community. Kingston Creative has done a wonderful job with beautifying the areas, so it's very attractive, so it will draw attention. But then persons just looking on and not necessarily being involved won't readily understand how they get involved, because they're seeing these beautiful murals and they're thinking to themselves, oh, they want artists, those kind of artists they want, and they assign Creative City to who are artists. So sometimes they don't recognize that they are a part of it, and what they have is valuable. So it's helping them to become aware of their contribution, because that's why they keep looking to other persons to tell them exactly what to do. When they're certain that, oh yes, I'm a creative, I am involved, this affects me too, they'll probably take more responsibility on that in that sense from me. That's what I have observed. So having them first becoming aware that they're the most important part of the creative city, the creatives that live in the city.
Love that. And Robert, from your work with the community members, what has been your observation as to things that can also help the community members to have a different perspective of what the creative city is and how they fit into it?
Well, from my experience, we're not short of creative people. And if something is going to develop within the communities, I think it has to come from out of the people themselves. The development has to be led by the people. And for that to happen, there has to be some form of organization or structure. And I remember when Kingston Creative first started out, they had some initiatives where they would go into the communities on certain weekends, and they would have some activities where local talent could be displayed, and they brought in other talents. And I think that was a good vehicle to get the community people involved. And you could carry that further by getting some of them to maybe form some kind of organization that can push the thing within the community.
Love it. And this is a live conversation. So if you're just joining us, we are talking about the creative city, and most importantly, how the creatives who live in the city can, see the value of themselves in this process and contribute to it as well. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat if you're here with us on Zoom. If you're on YouTube, please drop your questions there as well, so that we can have a full discussion. I saw a question in the chat earlier. What do we think the community members really need to see in these creative cities? Like, what places they want to go, what activities they want to be a part of, what are the different opportunities that are not there currently that they would like to be created. I'm going to throw this out to everyone so we can have a conversation about that. That's from the chat here. So I'm going to ask Owen if you could give me his perspective on that to start us off. What are some of the things, this is from the chat, what are some of the things we believe the community members would like to see, you know, in the creative city? That's the one we're building now, that's not currently there. So, you know, the places they want to go, activities they want to be a part of, any opportunities that are not present for them now, that would be ideal for the things, the vision that they have for themselves and their city.
I think what people want and definitely need is input that will help them to organize, that will help them to organize in ways that they can feel in control of what's happening, and they can have a say in how development happens around them. And they don't want to be sitting, they want a good toilet, and they want a Wi-Fi, and they want to be able to talk with each other and party outside, and they don't want those basic things. I think what's necessary also is to facilitate opportunities for people to organize. When I walk to Townhall, every road I want a cook shop. And I'm like, is there a way that we could organize these cook shops in a way that they could buy in bulk together, become a cooperative, and then target markets outside the community, right? So that, you know, there's not just survival and so on. So I mean, business plan, assistance with business plans, assistance with opportunities for hubs where they can plan together and become, you know, those are the kind of things that I think people really want and need. As the Carol Banati is asking, do they imagine the city when they close the mines and so on? People really want safety and security. They want to feel not oppressed by the state apparatus. They want to feel that they have some freedom and they can cross borders from community to community, you know, Tel Aviv and Southside and Tivoli and Denhamtown and Rima and Jungle, and be able to walk across these borders safely and securely, and, you know, they want to feel good, really.
Yes, I feel that. And before we even move on to another perspective, you know, you mentioned about the hubs and about the business plans and all of those support. Those are some things that the Creative Hub provides for our creatives and our community members in the space. Are they using these? Are they aware of them? How do they feel about them? I'd love to hear from the different panelists who work closely with these creatives and community members. How do they feel about these initiatives? Do they feel that it's something they can be a part of readily? And if not, what can we do to have them taking advantage of a lot of these that are actually you can go ahead, either Romain, Natalie, Robert, and just share with us, you know, from those you've been working with, do they know about these different things? I mentioned earlier, even one for the Creative Hub that persons can sign up for. Do they know these are available? Are they signing up for them? If not, what are the challenges? And we can talk about it right here, right now.
Well, I know that Kingston Creative has done a great deal of work in trying to ensure that the community creatives are aware of the services available through the co-working hub or the hub, Kingston Creatives Hub. And but all right, so I guess I would do better with illustration. So if something is in front of me and I don't know the value of it, no matter if I see it 10 times for the day, it's not going to impact me in any way. So it's not for a lack of information, but it has to be them seeing themselves as going there. It may, because they may think like, oh, when it is being marketed, Kingston Creative use a general standard, but how do communities see themselves as being included in that imagery that is being presented? Not saying it should change. I think Kingston Creative should maintain the image but then it takes a bit of hand holding for community persons. It's like you literally have to beg them to help them. right now the country, not to stray too much on COVID, we're not straying on it, but one of the challenges with COVID is the fact that people don't trust authority. And Kingston Creative sort of looks like authority, you know? So therefore, it's more reluctancy for them to come in droves and say, hey, I need help, help me. People are thinking, they're gonna steal my idea. They're just gonna be using me and then I won't be benefiting or whatever. Or sometimes it's just timing too, convenience. When my time was not so flexible and I had to answer to so many supervisors and managers, it wasn't easy for me to get time to get access to information that could actually help me. And some persons, as being creative, even if they're selling as a vendor down a big tree in a parade, they want to make sure so them there when the people them there for buy, and that's the same time the hub is open. So it's a matter of, yes, it's there, it's available to them, but they're looking at, hey, my people need to get fed, my family need to get take care of, I have responsibilities. So it may not seem so important to them. So I guess is one way is trying to figure out how to make it look attractive and seem important to the community creatives. So, you know, I guess Owen has been a creative and an educator is a good example to keep showing people to say, hey, he's from the community, the community of Kingston. He's done well, he has gone through the process and it has worked for him. Because if we see people, we don't want to be the first one to find out if it works or it don't work. We don't want to be the guinea pig. We want to make sure that somebody else is going to do it. If it works for them, then we'll do it. So that's one of the challenge with community.
And I know, Robert, you also work closely with a lot of our community members and creatives. How do we get past this barrier to allow them to take advantage of a lot of the opportunities that are actually available to them? Natalie mentioned some of them, but from your own perspective, you know, pulling them together, what would you say that we would need to do to be able to at least start getting through to them?
Well, I think the key to it is engagement, and as Sabuki said, you need to get the information out there. So I would say that you need to identify areas within the communities that you can go and engage people who will send out the word, like the youth clubs, the various community-based organizations. I think you have to find a way to make that connection with those people.
Yeah,
and even the guys on the corner, because a lot of talent is going to waste on the corners because they don't really know how to the avenues to really pursue in order to, you know, make some progress.
Thank you so
much.
It's
about engagement.
Definitely. And I know, Sabuki, you connect with a lot of these different community members and creatives as well. From a very direct perspective, how do we connect with them, or how have you connected with them? You could share something with us as well. Because for something that we may, you know, someone even just shared with me, we could say from your own experiences, what are some ways that you have been able to?
Well, I mean, it's being yourself as who you are as a representative, representing the organization, first and foremost representing yourself, first and foremost representing the community, representing your household, you know what I mean, representing where you're from, representing Jamaica, representing the culture. So, I mean, that should be first or prior go-to point or actual driving force, you know what I mean, to make sure the information is being adequately spread throughout the communities, you know what I mean, whether if it's a gunman, the corner boy, the thief, if they don't need it, they're gonna somehow they're gonna eventually buck up on the knowledge that they're gonna need that information. Their sons and their daughters is gonna need that information. You know what I mean? So when we speak of giving them or having that information to them, is simple as having conversations, creating spaces for them to have the conversations. You know what I mean? So as I heard Owen said, you know, for instance, like a community members, you're having a credit union or a union where we pool the monies together and we buy the stuff, or, you know what I mean, just as what we did with Life Yard, to create a space where there's farming. So community, a majority of the community members come there at Life Yard for the information, you know, for outside of the community itself, you know what I mean? So that's how I know getting the information to these people, whether it's having actual parent meetings, you know what I mean, homework club meetings with the kids in the community itself, intervention with the actual youth clubs and the police clubs, you know what I mean? So more information which is accessible is how the population or the populace within the community are going to react positively other than reacting otherwise, you know what I mean? So the representative or the representative who's carrying this information has to be an avid person of the culture and love the culture and love the communities, you know what I mean? And not just doing it for, you know, some side off thing because it can be maintained or something else, you know what I mean? So that's just the reality when we speak of. So when you're doing something from your heart, you're doing it from your heart and not just, oh, this is a creative city or how we're going to actually achieve it, you know what I mean? So getting the knowledge and the information to the people is priority first. Yeah.
I see where Clarion Philpotts has her hand raised. I will invite you to share your thoughts with us as well, please. So I'll have tech support unmute you, and I'd love to hear your view on what we're talking about just now. While we wait for her.
Greetings, everybody. I'm Clarion Philpotts, and I'm the managing director of A New Jamaica Peace Foundation. I've been working in Onyx Gardens and primarily in Havana, but I've been working at the Iris Galley Primary School since 2016. I've been doing after-school program, reading, music, computer, etc. So it's really children as far as Spanish Town Road that I know definitely have participated. We've done 5 field trips with them so far, and I can't sit and listen to a conversation I think really lambasting inner city people and saying they don't want to participate and that kind of thing, because I don't experience that. And I think if you do meet upon any kind of cynicism on their part, it is probably going to be from experience. You know, if people say, listen, I don't want to participate because people steal my idea, it's probably something that has happened to them before. But, you know, inner city life and getting people to, in a sense, do what you would like them to do, because that's what we're here discussing. Ultimately, it's we trying to say to them, this is our idea for you, and can you please participate in it? It's not going to be just one set of issues in terms of why people don't come forward. Every community might have different issues, right? So let me speak in terms of Havana, because we do have a community center, and I don't have a problem. For example, I have keyboards. I don't have a problem getting children to come and be excited about playing my keyboards. And computer, they want to participate, but at this age, you know, they're 7, 8, 9, 10, and some of them are 15 and that age because I've been working with them for 5 years. But when we try to get permission, for example, to use the community center to do our work, the SDC officer told us that their vision for the center was to actually bring tourists to the center. And she actually said to us that the center was built and the residents had vandalized it. And this is something that happened 8 years ago, right? And so the vision sometimes is not there. Why you see people not participating? And so people would like to participate, right? But why is it they're not coming forward? Go and find out what has happened. Go and talk to people. And so when I say to people, well, we can't get a room at the center that has 6 rooms, you know, and they say, well, it's so them stay, it's so them people that stay. People believe that, yeah, they're being used, and the community center that is in their community that they used to chop the grass and they used to do their creative work. All of a sudden, people want to now take it to a higher level. And that means, oh, well, you can't come to the center anymore. You know, you used to be able to just walk into the center and do your dance and do your drama and do your sewing and do whatever you wanted to do at the center. But now we have other ideas for the center. Now we got millions of dollars and we've renovated the center, and you know, you're not allowed to just come into the center anymore. You're not allowed to just use the center anymore. And so when you have a CDC who's charging people $5,000 a week per child to use, you know, have a program, what about the mother who's making $8,000 for the week, or the mother who's unemployed? How is that child? You see? So now those children will not be able to participate in those programs, because our idea, the SDC idea and the CDC idea, does not really include the smaller people. We have an idea to set up shop and to bring in tourists and have them say, oh, look at the ghetto people, you know, that kind of attitude, the way they don't allow Jamaicans to go on the beaches and they build these wonderful hotels. And it's kind of, oh, just come and look at the primitives, you know, but you don't really want the primitives to come in and be a part of it, you know? So yeah, that's what I have to say about why people don't participate a lot of times.
That's very, very for a lot of us.
I would like to respond to Clarion as a member of the SDC.
Go ahead. And then we're going to invite Katie first to join us as well.
The SDC, the premise that we work on is that development usually takes place when it's led by the community persons. Nobody knows the community like the community persons. And so any intervention is more likely to succeed if it comes from the community and not from somebody telling them what they need. And because of that, the SDC usually seeks to identify a vision of the community from the people, based on what the people want. The SDC doesn't usually go in and tell the community what they need, as far as I know. And also, the SDC doesn't own any community center. So the SDC cannot dictate to any community how they should utilize their community center. So what Clarion has said don't sound like the SDC, because we strive to reflect what the community wants. Because that is the only way you're going to get the buy-in, if it's coming from the community.
Thank you so much.
And I just wanted to add in relation, what you said in relation to per child $5,000 to have access to the community center. That sounds questionable, and not just sound questionable. It is questionable, because I have used community centers both in Kingston and outside of Kingston, and I've never been faced with that. So that sounds questionable. So when you hear something like that, Ms. Philfast, it would be best for you to contact the SDC directly and not just the person who is in the community, because per child, that sounds ridiculous. I know that if a large organization is using the community center, there is a fee in relation to maintenance, but that per child thing is not, adding up.
Thank you so much, guys, for shedding some light on that as well. And I'd love to ask Kedis to join the conversation as well, to share from her perspective and the work that she's been doing in the communities, how the community members are also benefiting as well. I'd love for tech support to unmute her, please. Kedis, are you hearing us?
Benefiting. Hi, I'm hearing you very clearly. You said benefiting.
All right, welcome to the conversation. Yes, I'd love it for you even share your thoughts. I know you weren't able to introduce yourself to the audience earlier because of some technical difficulties. I'd love for you to just quickly introduce yourself to the friends online here, and then we can jump into the conversation.
Hi again, I would have already introduced myself earlier. So for those who weren't here, I'm Kedis from the Social Development Commission. I wanted to chime in specifically on the part where it relates to the buy-in. In my interactions with community persons, I find that a lot of times persons want to know how they will be compensated in order to get the buy-in. That's a big issue because we don't put a lot of importance on the creative contribution to the economy or to development at large sometimes. And so it is not appreciated in terms of a full-fledged career. And so I don't think it's a lack of information as it relates to the creatives, but it's a lack of information. Hold on, I'd have to come back.
Problem.
Yeah.
So we are talking about, she mentioned, when it comes to compensation, is that some of the challenges or issues that you also are facing when it comes to the conversations you have with the different community members? I'll throw that out as well. Natalie, Owen, Romain, Robert, you can also comment to if that's an issue, how do we get around that? What are the different support organizations or entities that can engage these different communities to resolve some of those issues?
Well, we know the saying goes, time is money. And if you want to get real formal, you talk about opportunity costs. So, but then yes, that would definitely be a huge factor, because for a person, yes, you want to develop your community, you want it to look well, but right now I just really want to make sure it's me comfortable inside of my house with my family. And if what I am getting now makes sense, it now gonna look attractive to me. So no matter what you could attack till God come, it now happen. I'm now interested. Me interested for come look and see who else I do it, but if it now compensate me in a way that is beneficial, I'm not. And that really, what Kedis mentioned is definitely one of the larger factors as to why you may not have persons readily jumping in to say, hey, I'm developing the creative city, or I'm being included in this creative city. How is it benefiting me personally, financially?
I see Owen is agreeing with what you're saying. Let's hear your other thoughts, Owen, on this.
So here my thing. I don't think we provide enough opportunities, we as in the national community, to hear how people in the ghetto feel and think and what they want and need and how they dream. And very often people tend to speak for and romanticize ghetto people. And the issue that Clarion raised, for example, about access to spaces in your community that somebody have the key for, is a big thing. Hello, my uncle Arthur Ellis used to break into Boys Town to play the piano at night time. That was way back in the 60s. He used to teach in the night time to play the piano because access was not available, was denied. Now, Kingston Creative doing some wonderful work with creating hubs and so on. My other students know about it. But the youth who have a studio in a Tel Aviv, in a Jonestown, don't know about it. So my thing is how access information, or people know about these things so they can benefit from the wonderful work that can also help them to transform what they're doing. So we have to find a way, and perhaps the way is through the primary schools, where we can get students to start some field trips with students when COVID allows, to see, to learn, to appreciate visual arts in ways that would then have them feel like it is there for now, incumbent on them to protect it and don't defeat it and so on. Because I hear people talking to them, people in overseas, when they come home to make them want to look on the work downtown. So I hear this nice sense of interest in it from outside. I don't know how the man will live, they feel about it all now. You know, so when do they get to talk about it? Or do we allow them a chance to articulate their appreciation of what's happening and also articulate their concern with how them get a part of that? You know, next thing you know, man, start the charge of a pose against the wall or something. You know, I remember doing some work in Waterhouse years ago. Beautiful community with the idea being around environmental appreciation. And when them decorate some place and so on, they start two walls met at a kind of a corner, and them say, it looks like a typical place someone come urinate. So they put a sign there, don't urinate here. And I watch how you go urinate on the sign. God, I'm like, wow. I mean, if I can't tell me to live on my place. So those dynamics have to be faced and dealt with.
So true, Owen. Yeah, in that, and not only that, you have community events keeping, and if there's a fee to it, I'm gonna say you can't tell me to prepare for nothing where I'm in our community. So them have that view. If them have to pay, it sound like a scam.
So it's how we get the information that's already there, the opportunities that are already there, and ensure that it gets trickled down to the communities and the community members in a way that they can feel like they're a part of it. And so that sounds like a lot of support groups. I know you mentioned earlier, Black, like, for example, a line of shops. Why don't they all come together? Why isn't there a corporation where everybody can say, all right, if we buy some chicken, we're all putting together and make sure that this is all there. But then that's where the different organizations come in, or support groups come in. And I'd love to hear from Robert, if Kedis is available to join us again. I'd love for her to join us to share with us if there are any current programs that are available that allows us to share different activities that community members can be a part of. So all of these things that we're talking about, do some of these programs already exist, and what are they, so that our community members can know about them?
Well, the SDC, we usually put on what we call business fairs, where we invite local economic persons to come and display their wares, you know, so that persons can become aware of them, and also they would be able to even make some money at the same time. So we do try and have these fairs in various communities, so that, as I said, persons can come out and, you know, display their things and get an opportunity to make some money.
Very, very similar to what Kingston Creative would host as a market street, or when we have
very similar,
where persons could come and showcase their talent. Now we're seeing that the space is changing. Well, it has changed. Let me say, it has changed. So how do we then navigate in that change? I mean, we can't necessarily have these physical pop-ups as expansive or as often as we'd want to do. What are your thoughts? I'm throwing this out to everyone as to what it is that we can do to shift in this new normal, or this new way of living, to allow our creators and our community members to continue to thrive and to benefit even more in the space, seeing that we have to change how we do. What are some things that we would need to do? Any ideas or thoughts on that?
I have a friend who, when she saw the flyer for this event, challenged me and said, how come it not been more people from the inner city on the panel? And I say, yo, me and Jabuki come from, Sabuki come from the place that we're talking about. I get a you too. But I got the point that she was trying to make. And that is where I would like to encourage her. This is a wonderful opportunity. This is a valuable thing. And I salute this effort. I'm saying, let's do more of this. Let's do more of this and get them people to come in too and talk. They might talk pretty, but they're going to talk earnestly and we're going to get a better set up how they feel, how are they dreaming, so we can then involve them, get their buy-in into what happens next. So this thing is that will happen here. So it's great. Let's do it some more and get more of them people there. We can link them and say, yo, link up and join this. I tried, but didn't get enough of them. Link up and join this. Here we are going and say what you feel. That's how we're going to help it to really move out of the little centers of intellect into everybody can say, yo, I like this.
They are worthy of being a part of it as well. Love that. And Andrea has thrown out some questions into the chat for both Sabuki and Owen. I'm going to just read it out for you. Other than Trenchtown, Life Yard, or Fleet Street is probably the closest example of a community with creativity at the center of its development. So for you, Sabuki, what has been your experience in creating this arts district per se in Parade Gardens? And then you can also talk to us about some of the challenges that you've experienced in doing that.
Well, in creating it, it was more of a magical experience than strategic. You know what I mean, to be honest with you. Yeah. And with also aligning the community with the creation and the embodiment of life. Yeah. As ghetto people, kind of skeptic when you bring something new to them. You understand me? Them not really like things where out of the box sometime, but it have a kind of vibe to them where them can just cling to. You know what I mean? So with Life Yard being presented to the community, it was more of the initiation of outsiders being involved and representing the community as well. So when the community members saw that, you know, outsiders was really, you know, rooting for the community and saw that, you know, oh, this is going somewhere, you know, this has a vibe, you know, it keeps people coming here, you know what I mean? It keeps the community having this vibrancy, you know, everybody's out, everybody's communicating, you know what I mean? There's less violence, you know what I mean? So that was the whole initiation, what it created. So it showed me and the members that how effective communication and giving the information to the people in the community versus if they want it or they don't want it. You know what I mean? So, but making them feel involved is the best thing, as everyone can attest to on the panel. You know, making every individual wanting to feel involved or, you know, just to make them understand that this is going to be for them and not for you, you know what I mean? So, even for vandalization, if we're creating a mural and someone passes by and want to piss on it, you know what I mean? So, that was really because they weren't, you know, involved. You get what I'm saying? So, the involvement of community members is more valid than anything else to really bring in fruition to the actual experiences, you know what I mean? So first they have to be comfortable of the idea, you know what I mean? And then they are going to approach whomsoever is coming into their space. You understand? So they are quite defensive in many various ways of what is going to happen and even the after effects.
And I'd love to also, you know, about you are commenting, Robert?
No, go ahead.
You spoke about, you know, persons who don't feel like they're involved in certain projects, and so they would want to either deface or, you know, be very defensive as it relates to that. How were you able to, you know, overcome some of those challenges? Because, for example, if I'm a muralist, or if let's say I'm a dressmaker and I will make the nice clothes that people wear, but you are the muralist, the work that you do will be different from the work that I will do, but it will be complementary. How were you able to, you know, have persons with different skill sets and different creative energies to kind of come together and see it like, okay, is one thing we're trying to build here, is everybody in it? How were you able to, you know, allow that synergy between everybody?
First thing is to appreciate every art form, because there are many various art forms when it comes to art itself. You know, you have from writing, dub poetry, textile, you know, the initiation of creative app development, um, counseling, all of that is a type of art. The music, the production, all of that is an art. So we have to show each individual that avid respect minimum to that person who is creating the art. You know what I mean? So they feel that they are important just the same as we are giving them this platform to utilize just the same. So
Thank you so much for
for
sharing that.
instance, we did a crochet program with the young girls and boys in Parade Gardens, and we had to get consent from the parents, you know what I mean? And most of the parents were actually reluctant. They were like, how is this going to benefit our kids if they're going to get any money? What's the long-term effect of this? You know what I mean? And we had to actually create a outline for the program to show them, okay, then 15% of the actual bags and the product that is being created is going to go back to the child. You know what I mean? Stuff like that, clauses, and giving them that information that, hey, we are not trying to take away anything from you. Clearly, this is more of giving you, like literally, you know what I mean? Handing it to them, as I heard Natalie said, you know what I mean? It's like you have to spoon feed it, you know, at some point, you understand me? So it's more of the clarity for them to understand when you're growing with them and you level with each and every individual, each and every, whether it is the artist, the community member, the muralist, the creative person for the videography, the photography, is just making sure that their art, their position, their role play is actually valid.
Thank you so much for that. I know, Robert, you wanted to share some points as well. I'd love to hand over to you if you still have the points you wanted to make.
Well, one of the realities that I don't think we can get away from is that persons within the inner cities, they are usually economically challenged. So the main thing for most of them is survival. So as Natalie said, their time is very precious. So it's not easy to get them engaged in activities that they don't see going to put some food on the table or something like that. So somehow we have to find a way to tie in some economic benefit in whatever we are trying to get them engaged in.
Thank you so much.
It's a reality. It's a reality. It's a reality.
Definitely.
This is Kedis. I wanted to chime in in regard to that. I think, as Mr. Ellis would have alluded to earlier, I think a great way to input on the parents and persons in general the importance of the creative aspect is to infiltrate the schools from early. Let us use an example. When you have career days at school, how many persons do you see showing up as artists or a creative person? I can't think of any. And that just simply means that persons don't think that it's relevant. And so if from a younger age, we start teaching the kids that, yes, you have a contribution to make if you are creative, I think that would be a great start.
And we welcome your mini panel conversation. So tell them thank you.
Yeah, them feel like I'm looking at it.
And Blacka, I know earlier the conversation, the questions were also sent to you when it comes to the challenges that we face when creating some of these community spaces. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well as to, you know, what are some of the...
Yeah, long-term developmental goals cannot appear to ignore the basic immediate needs of people. When we worked with the Era Youth Crew years ago in downtown, we met at Scotskirk United Church, and we had young people there from Denham Town, Tivoli, Southside, Tel Aviv, Jonestown, and 40 of them, even time, I come learn to dance and sing and act and so on. We knew that when the rehearsal meeting gathering done, they want food. None of them are coming to that. I don't have bun and cheese and pot and cocoa bread and chicken and so on. But I don't have that because, hello, it's important because them come give the energy. And most of them not eat from morning. So those, and we can't say, oh, it's development, but them hungry right now. So we have to also respond to the immediate needs of people. When them belly full, they will think and act and down and so on. So and as Robert just said, people in these communities struggling, you know, and there are ways without appearing to romanticize poverty. Them very struggling is great, as Carl Narcy said, all their liberty is creativity. Because to survive in a some little small space and still can step out a week at time and got that looking good. It's a creativity that in itself, you know. So you know, so we have to really celebrate, salute, and value and validate people's now and present as we and then also support them current needs as we help them to buy into the broader ideas that we want to share with them for development and transformation.
Love that, love that. And I know Charmaine Brim is also on the call with us. I'd love to invite her to the conversation too. So, you know, talk to us from her own perspectives about what we're discussing here. I'd love to invite tech support to unmute her for us, please. So that she, hi Charmaine, welcome.
Hi Tavio, thank you so much. I wasn't expecting this, but
quickly, just introduce yourself to our friends here, and then I'd love to hear, you know, from you, from your perspective.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. I am Charmaine Brim, a technical specialist at the Planning Institute of Jamaica, and assigned specifically to the Community Renewal Program. I just want to first say overall, I really have been enjoying the conversation and just listening to all of the perspectives. I think that if we think of it collectively, there are so many key nuggets that have come forth. Let me start by just saying from a PIOJ standpoint, and certainly as it relates to community development and community renewal, that you know, the idea of really trying to advance the creative industries, and because of the potential that it holds for our community groups, is one that we see as being very critical to the whole renewal process, right? And what is critical to that though, and I think I've heard it come out, the reality is that we want to advance economic self-sufficiency, right? We have our community members. The reality is that just like every one of us, it's about survival. It's about tapping into our own talents or gifts or intellect, whatever we want to call it. But the truth is, it is how do we use that to really advance ourselves for a better life. You know, we want to see the standard of living improve for these community persons. I have mixed view on some of the things. So, you know, like in the chat, I was saying, we have seen instances where in communities, unless they are going to be paid or unless they're saying, essentially is what are you giving me? Well, I'm not going to participate in something that is really supposed to build your capacity. I put some of that blame because I think some aspects of it comes from, I don't want to be political, but I think to a certain extent, some of the cultural things we have practiced over time, where to engage community groups, you know, you're more likely giving them something in hand as against saying you are valuable. Your input is important to the development of your community, right? And also in the past, we have had interventions where essentially you are paid to come out. Although, let us put that in context, because if it is that you're going to be doing something, you know, like training or so for community persons, and it's going to interfere with their regular, you know, going out for livelihood, because we know how it goes with community persons. It's not necessarily a 9-to-5 job like what we have. So if it is that you're going to advance an intervention that is going to interfere or interrupt that livelihood, then certainly a stipend should be paid, you know? So, so I think there are certain mixed views, but I think that I heard one of the speakers just now, which I think made a very good, important point as it relates to how we can start to promote this in the schools. And it's good. And if it is that we have career days, for instance, and we are not bringing in anybody from the creative industries to show the youth that this is a viable option, we are past the days, I think, where, you know, it is only if you become a lawyer, doctor, or, you know, those traditional things. But if we look at the way that the world is going, and I think this is very important in what we're doing, we have to start looking at global trends. We have to start forecasting. When we talk about building out a creative industry, it's not just within the local context and what, you know, they can access locally. It's important, yes, but the truth is, just like the ocean, which is huge, there are global opportunities. And I think that as we are rolling out and building industries, we must get our residents to see themselves in as a part of the bigger world, that their talent, their creativity can be marketed globally, you know, and in that way as well, they can also see the benefits. So I think it's very important that as we go out, one, I think I heard Ralph saying this, it must start with relationship building. You know, we can't continue to go into communities and say, well, I'm the expert here, this is what must be done. We must also ensure that we're using evidence, right? Evidence-based in terms of our interventions. What is the evidence that in Trenchtown, there is, when we look at their overall creativity, Trenchtown is very good musically, right? So what is the evidence that is informing how I'm going to position a particular community as it relates to developing the creative in that in their area? So I think overall the conversation is good. I think that there are many takeaways, but I think what is key is that we must ensure that, you know, from the get-go, we're having conversations with the people, with the residents. We are listening to them because they have the ideas as well, the street smart, so to speak, and really building relationships so that it is easier to get the buy-in. And the last thing I'll say is, it's interesting because I know that, like, from a PIOJ standpoint, even as we look at sector performances and, you know, what are some of the key industries that are contributing to Jamaica's growth, you know, or development or GDP, there is so much untapped potential within the creative industries. And I think I see Andrea probably indicating as well, you know, we were very happy when Kingston Creatives did approach us to try to help to mobilize resources to support what they're doing. And, you know, that was successful with the IDB project. So the potential is there. I think the work that Kingston Creative is doing is really a very good step. And as the partnerships and the collaboration continue, then I think that we will definitely be seeing some good results. So thank you. That was a mouthful, but
we love it. We love
that I was able to add that.
Love it. Love it. And we thank you so much for joining and sharing those very, very salient points with us. And we thank you for saying yes to that Kingston Creative Partnership just the same. I mean, I always love these conversations because it goes straight to the root of what issues are. And then we can be open about what it is that can help us to solve these issues that we are facing as a part of the communities. And it's not us telling the community members what to do, but is involving them. And I love that there are some solutions that have also been shared, you know, like including them on some of the panels, which we've done as well. The community member, Owen and Sabuki and Natalie, and you live in these communities. And so we are very happy that you're able to join us and have this conversation with us. I'd love to hear from you if there are any, you know, final words that you'd love to share when it comes to community development, you know, or community members or creatives and our creative city that we're building and how they can continue to benefit from it. I'd love for you to share with us, any final thoughts or any thoughts that you think are very critical for next year. Maybe our next town hall, who knows? I'd love to hear it. I know Andrea is listening.
We need to network. I want to meet Clary and Philpotts. Never met her. I want to know what she's doing at Iris Gelly and see how we can connect with what I'm doing in Trenchtown. We're trying to now build in Trenchtown a youth performance ensemble. We want to build out a steel band, a Afrocentric drum corps, a regular marching band, singing and dancing with over 50 youth. And I shared it with a version of mine yesterday on YouTube, and somebody offered to give us a whole marching band set of equipment. So the more we share what's happening, the more we can hear who can also help us to work together. I mean, I grew up with Trenchtown being from 1st to 14th Street. And then in the 70s, it splits. So that 1st to 7th, Trenchtown, and then up to it Annie Gardens. I want Trenchtown. So I see what Karen is doing as part of the broader Trenchtown. So I want to do that shift, and I really want to respect people for doing this, because I am now learning some more. I know about Life Yard, I know about what Karen is doing. So the more people can do, this is important. So let's just hear some more, share some more, so we can go some more together and connect. Because we shouldn't compete, we should collaborate.
Definitely. Networking. And that is why we meet up. Even though we're virtual, please drop them in the chat, your email addresses, your connect with each other, talk to each other, so that you can, as you just shared, collaborate as well. Sabuki, I'm going to jump over to you for any final thoughts.
Well, congratulations, everyone. Hopefully we really can, network some more and get working. So we can do that. Going forward, I don't have much to say, but other than just work. Nastasia Andrew says she wants to make a statement. Can you allow her?
All right, afterwards. So
Okay.
support you can you up to, your mic is muted. Tech support will assist you. In the meantime, I'll ask Kedis, are you here with us still to share some final thoughts?
Hi everyone. I just want to say thank you for including me. I really do hope that creatives will get a chance to develop and enhance the sector. I mean, all of us will not be able to go into the 9-to-5 route, and so I think it's very important that we focus on less mainstream areas in order to improve our communities. All right.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Natalie.
So one thing I really would love to add is, so you asked this question earlier, and it's how we can get the community to buy in more. One of the main ways that we can do is by having someone from the community that has experienced it and it has worked for them to be able to go and tell the others. And that's and the quality of person too, because if it's someone that they don't trust, it will be a challenge. But if more community members are involved, it has a way of growing. It will develop, it will grow. There'll be patience, it will require patience on our part, because it might look like you're not and it might just be that who is 5 now I hear it, and when them reach 20 before them can actually use wherever them I hear. So patience is important. In relation to making the community creatives more formal, yes, it is important for them to be more united. So in them being more united, that is important, but they would have to make that decision for themselves. We outsiders wouldn't be able to really assist them in becoming united and trusting each other to start a group that can really push forward the entire group of community creatives. So that is one thing that can be encouraged more moving forward. Not that it hasn't been, because I know that it has been, but just put it out more. So those are some of the things I wanted to highlight. Supporting 100% what Mr. Ralph said. It requires that it come from in the community for us to get
Definitely. Definitely.
Robert, I'd love to hear your final thoughts as well before we jump over to Nesta. So go ahead, Robert.
Yes, well, I have found it very interesting. And what I would want to say in closing is that I think in order to get the grassroots people involved, we need to try and create some creative cells in each community. And if we are having a forum like this again, I would endorse what Mr. Ellis said in that we try and invite more community persons to get their views.
Definitely so. Definitely so. I agree to that as well.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you for all of you who shared with us. Thank you for those who joined us on YouTube as well and all our other platforms. We really enjoyed this wonderful conversation, and we always love when you are so open and just sharing with us, you know, what are the different things that we're all experiencing. I'm sure after we have ended, we can, you know, continue to have some conversations here so we can hear from you. So thank you very much for joining us. And we definitely look forward to more and more conversations with you. I'm gonna jump over to Nesta. I'm gonna give you a chance to share what you wanted to see with us. I'll allow tech support to unmute you, and then you can share with us here in a few.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Very interesting conversation as usual. Owen, Dr. Ellis, big up yourself. I've always been very fascinated with you. I always wanted to tell you thanks for just making us laugh, and Oliver and Daly and all the comedians. And even Bob Marley and the people before. Creatives have added such great color to the life that we live. It's just pity that when we go to career days, we don't see the creatives as career persons there though. When we start the conversation at the beginning at school, that it's okay for a young person to believe that they can draw, and they can sketch, and they can act, and they can do all of that.